Another summer's day, another green tide along the coast of Brittany in the northwest of France. Since April, more than 9,000 tons of Ulva armorica, a species commonly known as green algae, has been scooped off the region's beaches. And there's no let-up.
We haven't finished yet, but there's easily 300 to 400 tons.
Once again, local authorities are being forced to bring in the heavy machinery and some high-tech devices.
These are hydrogen sulfide detectors. It's a poisonous gas. When the algae we collect is fresh, there's no problem, and then it won't sound the alarm. But if we go where the algae is very bad quality, where there's maybe a pocket of gas, then the detector will indicate that.
Health risks linked to decomposing algae have added a sense of urgency to a complex and growing environmental problem that currently affects some 110 coastal towns in Brittany.
My son is 46 years old. 40 years ago, he used to play when the algae had dried out. He used to make little islands, that's what he called them. And he was happy that his island would be moved 3 or 4 meters by the new tide. But this is the first year that we've collected this much.
Since the 1970s, green tides have divided environmentalists, farmers, local residents, politicians, holidaymakers and tourism professionals. Gilles Huet is the director of Eau and Rivière de Bretagne, a green group. He says intensive farming is responsible for 95% of the problem.
Scientists confirm today that the algae has grown because of too much nitrogen in the form of nitrates. It's a byproduct of intensive farming. Here in Brittany, on 6% of the surface of France, we produce 60% of the country's pigs, 40% of the cattle, and 45% of poultry. In the end, the algae we find on our beaches is the result of excessive nitrogen which has seeped through the ground.
Ce sont les excédents d'azote qui sont épandus sur les sols.
Pig farmers are particularly in the spotlight because of their intensive animal discharge. André Sargent is a pig farmer and vice president of the Finistère Chamber of Agriculture. He owns a 170-hectare farm with more than 300 sows. He admits some responsibility, but he says critics should also see a wider picture.
The algae problem is also in other European countries. Northern Baltic countries, for example, and also the Italian coast. It's not always necessarily directly linked to farmers. There are areas where there's very little farming, but still algae. So we farmers want to understand the problem too.
Existing laws make big animal farms in France reduce their nitrate output. So 5 years ago, Sergent invested €350,000 in this nitrate treatment plant.
Basically, the system takes in all organic material from the farm into this one tank. This organic matter will circulate and will be treated by pumping and mixing. So we'll eliminate all the excess nitrogen in this slurry. At the end of the process, we're left with 2 products: the biological mud, which can be used as a plant fertilizer, and water, which can be used for irrigation.
Some rural farming communities say they've also played their part. Hundreds of small villages in inland Brittany now have their own water treatment plants. New laws are pushing owners to link their houses and farms to existing sewage systems or to guarantee the proper use of septic tanks. These measures, along with a 5-year, €134 million government plan, seem to be slowly improving the situation. The European directive sets the maximum amount of nitrates allowed in both drinking and underground water at 50 milligrams per litre. And according to the European Environment Agency, France is far from having the worst European record. Nevertheless, green groups insist that much more has to be done. Jean Ascouet is the president of a green group in Douarnenez, in western Brittany. The beach has little algae today because, he says, it's frequently cleaned up.
You can see the tracks of the machinery which collect algae every day during the high season in summer. It shows that the beaches, which are natural spaces, are becoming more and more artificial. Because when a digger collects a ton of green algae, you should know that 30 to 40% of that volume is sand. And sand is a rare commodity which is disappearing.
But whether or not there is green algae around, he says authorities must improve their current information efforts.
The Regional Health Agency has produced a lovely brochure on all of Brittany's beaches. It weighs up various risks, risks from the sun, risks from shellfish, but it says absolutely nothing about the health risks linked with green algae.
Local tourism officials, though, say they take their information role very seriously. The director of this tourism office says she seldom receives questions on green algae. But when asked by holidaymakers, she can produce a leaflet, which is only available on demand.
This brochure explains why there are these green tides and what to do if you're in one, if tourists can walk in this algae, if they can touch it, and also if they smell a nauseating odour, what precautions they must take.
Scientists at this research institute have been studying the green tides for decades. They say they now have a much better understanding of their distribution, their life cycles and their makeup. There are answers, they say, but it'll take time before the results will be seen.
The only long-term action is to limit the flow of nitrogen from the land basin into the coastal waters. But that will take time, because the nitrogen that's flowing in our rivers today comes from farming of years ago. So there's a natural inertia, which means the benefits of anything we do today won't be felt as early as next year.
In the meantime, everybody agrees that social awareness is crucial. This museum in northern Brittany has invited families to a workshop to better understand the different types of algae and their role in marine ecosystems.
It's through play that they discover, they notice things and understand better. So this algae raises various questions, like why can I do this but not that, or what results are my actions going to provoke or generate?
And today it was another frustrating surfing day for members of the Surfrider Foundation, a sports and green group. Winds too weak, waves too few, and unwelcome floating algae.
It feels like you're ploughing through a salad. It's not really water. When you get out, you're covered in seaweed everywhere, and you lose the feeling of speed. You feel you're slowing down when you hit a bank of algae. It's tough.
Ocean lovers and holidaymakers equally share the dream of a less green future for Brittany's coastlines.
What concrete steps are the powers that be going to make? I hope that in 15 or 20 years you won't be here making this kind of report on these beaches.